to the Writing Gym Podcast. We're here to pump up your writing. And now your host, Andy Brixey, personal trainer at the Writing Gym.
Hey there, writers and muse daters. This week's full-length episode is focused on the retreat. Have you ever wanted to get away and just write? Have the constant worries of day-to-day life impacted your writing and held you back? Do you have no clue how to pick a reliable, safe, and fun writing retreat? Well, look no further. In this episode, I get to speak to Michelle Romaine. She runs the beautiful manor home where the Writing Gym England retreats are held, and she's going to share all of this and more with you today. Thank you for listening, and happy writing. Today, we're welcoming Michelle Romaine to the podcast. Michelle is the owner of the beautiful manor home where Annalisa holds the England writing retreat. Welcome to the podcast, Michelle.
Hi, good to talk to you.
So, Michelle, why don't you start by just telling our listeners a little bit about the manor home, where it is, and a little bit of the history, if you can.
Okay, so it's a beautiful art and crafts country house, which is in a part of England called Exmoor, which is one of the national parks down in the southwest. So it's in Devon and Somerset is the national park. And the house dates to the beginning of the 20th century. It was built in about 1910, built for a man who made a lot of money putting ships through the Suez Canal. And he built this beautiful house for his family. So it's very traditional art and style. And it's really beautifully located out in the middle of the countryside with the moors not very far away and the coastline. It's absolutely lovely.
That's amazing. So when people come visit, what are their common things that they're most excited about when they see the home?
Well, they're really excited about the style of the house, and all the accommodation reflects the history of the house. The house has had an interesting time because it was a family home, and then it became a school during the war. So it was a school for lots of boys. So it's got quite a history as a school, and lots of people remember it as a school. And there are lots of lovely old photographs of the boys here playing cricket and that kind of thing. And they love the gardens. We've got big gardens and they're very peaceful, nice place to relax. And they love the peace and quiet because you get away from all of the hustle and bustle of the towns and the cities. And you're out in this beautiful countryside and you have lovely views. So people are kind of blown away with the peace of it and how relaxing it is.
And I'm sure when a large group of writers comes in, the peace and the relaxation probably helps them to be a little bit more productive in their work, hopefully.
I think it allows them, to go into the garden and sit quietly and just think about what they're going to write. And they're in a historic house, so there's a lot of inspiration in the house and there's a lot of inspiration in the gardens. There's lots of places they can go and escape in the garden. There's nice places to sit. There's garden buildings that they go in and relax. So it really encourages people to be creative.
I love that. And I think that so many of our writers came back from the retreat talking about how it just felt like an absolute dream, that around every little corner was something even more beautiful, and every turn was, absolutely breathtaking, and having the opportunity to be creative in that space really was the most inspiring thing that they'd ever done.
The way it really works for them is they all have their own accommodation. And they have their own sitting rooms and their own place to go and chill, but they also get to spend their time in this beautiful house. So they have this lovely big sitting room that they use for the retreat. So it's really the best of both worlds for them.
Absolutely. One comment that we got a lot from the various attendees was how much they loved the food there. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, well, the food is really based on what we can get locally. I'm a real believer in local food, and we're a part of the world where you can get fantastic local food. So it became a bit of a joke, because every time I put a meal down for them, I would say, okay, so this is salad, and the leaves are grown by two girls who are just a few miles down the road, and this comes from just down the road. And it became a bit of a kind of running joke. But I do try as much as possible to use all the produce that I can get locally. So really lovely cheeses, really lovely salads, really lovely vegetables, good meat. Really, I think they had smoked salmon or smoked trout from one of the local fisheries. So they get a real taste of Exmoor when they come.
Yeah, and I think that makes such a difference, because when you visit somewhere but you're, eating food that isn't from that area, you're not really truly experiencing everything that you can of the place that you're in. So what a fantastic opportunity to really, dive into the area, to eat locally and stay in such a beautiful place. So can you talked about the moors and things like that. Can you give us a little bit more about where exactly the home is located, and, what things there are for people to do in the area?
Yeah, of course. So we are in a village called East Anstey, which is about 4 miles from a little Exmoor town called Dulverton. And Dulverton is very pretty, and it's got lots of things. So one of the things the writers loved the last time is it has an antique bookshop, and it is filled with shelves and shelves and shelves of lovely books. And they spent quite a lot of time in there. We've got a lovely shop that sells books and pictures and art and pottery and all sorts of really, really beautiful things. And I know that they spent quite a lot of time and probably quite a lot of money in there. Dulverton's got lovely cafes, lovely pubs, really nice gift shops. So it's quite a cool place to just go for a couple of hours, 3 hours maybe, to have a look around. The other thing that we did for the writers, and we're doing again, is this part of the world is very famous with the Romantic poets, so Coleridge and Wordsworth, and we have a Coleridge Society, and two of the members of that society join us for one of the days, and we take everybody up to the coast of North Devon, which is a place called Linton and Mouth. And this is part of the area that the poets got their inspiration from, the Valley of the Rocks, and it's just breathtakingly beautiful. It looks out to sea, and the two guides, who are experts on the Romantic poets and on Coleridge in particular, are with the party, and they give them a guided tour of what inspired the poets. So they get to see a really beautiful part of Exmoor, which is the rugged coastline, and we take them across the moors to get there, and then they have lunch in a really nice pub up there, overlooking the sea. So they get a really good look at Exmoor. And of course, if you're on Exmoor, one of the beautiful things is all the wildlife. So you will probably see wild ponies, you may see deer, you certainly see birds galore. So you really get a breathtaking opportunity to see beautiful scenery, but also really amazing wildlife, with some Romantic poets thrown in for creativity.
That was one thing that they talked endlessly about, is being able to stand there and, see this countryside where, these beautiful poems were inspired. And it was so interesting to hear them talk about feeling inspired themselves, knowing that, someone as amazing as Coleridge was in the exact same place, possibly, doing the exact same thing as them in that moment.
We didn't make them. Coleridge and Wordsworth walk miles and miles and miles. I mean, it was quite common for them to walk maybe 15 or 20 miles to go to places. We didn't make them walk. We took them in a van, in a bus. But at least they were able to get a sense of what it must have been like to walk this coast path And you go there and you see it, and you're not surprised that the poetry is so beautiful, because the inspiration is so beautiful.
So Michelle, what's it like living there? You see, as the owner, I'm sure you see people, transition in and out of this place all the time, inspired by these beautiful by the beautiful countryside and the home and everything else. What does it feel like to live there and kind of see every little part of that as people come in and out of the home?
Well, I think if you live in a house like this, first of all, a huge privilege, but you really are just looking after it. Your responsibility is to make sure that you nurture it, and you don't spoil it, and you protect it, and you leave it in a really good way, so that when you hand it on to someone else, it carries on being an absolutely gorgeous house. It is still our home, and I love living here. It's a fantastic place to live. And Mike and I love sharing it with people, because the really brilliant thing is when people come to stay with you and they are blown away by it and they love it as much as we do, that's a really special buzz, to be able to share it with people, and to be able to break food with people at the table and have them enjoy the sitting room and have them relax in the home. And spend time with us too. So that's a really great feeling. So we're very lucky to live here, and we love sharing it with people.
I love that. And I love that, something that Annalise and I put a lot of emphasis in the writing gym is that sense of community, that feeling of belonging and being inclusive. And it sounds like, that's exactly what you're doing by sharing this home with others, and welcoming them and making them feel inspired and happy and all those wonderful things. So I wanted to ask a little bit more. You kind of touched on it with the house as a school. How large is the home that it was a school at one point?
Well, the house is on 4 floors, so it has a basement, which is a cinema room. And then it has 2 floors. Obviously, on the second floor, we use for ourselves. It's our private accommodation. And then we have attics. And if you go into the attics, it's great fun, because in the cupboards in the attics, it still has all the labels on the shelves that were the boys' labels when they were at school, which told them which schoolhouse they were in. And it still has the coat pegs and that kind of thing. And then so that's the main house. And then, of course, we have this lovely accommodation, which are in wings of the house, which is where our writers stay. And they all get their own space. So they've all got a private room, and then they get this lovely sitting room and a kitchen to make some tea and coffee and what have you. And a place to go and relax if they want to. And if they want to go and just write, there's space for them to go and write. So we have 4 apartments like that our writers use to actually as their own space.
I love that. I like that, you have the opportunity to join with others if you, feel like you need some inspiration or some interaction, but the opportunity to kind of go into your own space and work if that's what you're feeling in that moment. That's really beneficial.
Know that last time some of the writers were in the group sessions, and then they said, actually, I'm going to spend the whole of the rest of today writing. Just took themselves away and they were writing. And then others went in the garden and kind of sat quietly and then came in and did some writing. So it really works for whatever you want to do that helps you to be creative.
Yeah.
I just keep everybody supplied with lots of tea and coffee and lots of delicious cakes and lots of delicious biscuits and great food, so that they're well fed, everything's there that they need, and hopefully that just gets the inspiration, the creative juices flowing.
Well, they have to have the fuel so they can work. So I know that they appreciated that, because that was one thing that they talked about, the feeling of warmth in the home, and how, you're so welcoming and, always prepared with trays of cakes and teas and coffee and biscuits. And they were
never at a loss for food, but also never at a loss for warmth and comfort, which I think was excessively helpful when you're creating, because it's hard to be in that creative mindset and get things done when you're worrying about, well, what am I going to do for breakfast? How am I going to get this done? I have to clean the house. I have to do this. I have to do this. It just gives them the opportunity to be in a beautifully inspiring place and focus solely on being creative and getting their work done, which I think was incredibly beneficial for every single person who went.
I think, if you're going to be a writer, you have to have space. That's the thing that enables you to write. So you have to have quiet. You have to be away. You're right. You have to be away from all that day-to-day stuff that we all have to do. And you have to make sure that, that be comfortable. And so I guess we're trying to create that environment for everybody so they can really concentrate on their writing.
Yeah. And I think it's been successfully done with the England retreat. I think that it's a space where everyone is comfortable and happy and inspired. And like you said, a chance to get away from that day-to-day stuff, which it's so easy for them to create excuses to not do the work they want to do because, the dishes need washing and the dog needs walked and all these other excuses, day-to-day things that you just say, oh, well, I don't have time to write today. I don't have time to create because I have all this other stuff to do. But being put in a situation that is just constantly inspiring where you're taken care of and all you have to worry about is getting the work done, of course they're going to create beautiful things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Michelle, I thank you so much for sharing so much about the home with us and a little bit about your part in the England retreat. I know that we have a full group of writers who are very excited to come join you in a few months, and they look forward to it. Have a great evening and happy writing, listeners.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone, and I'm planning the menus already.
If you like what you've heard and are interested to see if you're the right fit for the Writing Gym, here's what to do next. Head to www.datewiththemuse.com/publish now and book an appointment to speak with our team. Here's how it works. We'll get on the phone for about 45 minutes and we'll get crystal clear on 3 things. The best way for you to publish, the best way to achieve your publishing dream, and the exact strategy you should be using to reach your publishing goals. Remember, publishing a book well doesn't happen on its own. You need expert guidance to make it happen. We've helped writers all over the world to finish, publish, and sell their novels well, all while sharing their unique story and making the world a better place along the way. To see if we can help you to do the same, head to www.datewiththemuse.com/publish now. And if you're interested in the retreat, check out the show notes and click on the link there. I'm Andy, personal trainer over in the Writing Gym, and we'll talk soon. Happy writing! Hey, since you listened all the way to the very end of this special episode, here's this week's Quirk of the Week. I don't want to be a rat, but Annalisa speaks French, and she used this skill on the retreat this year to help a stranded child on a hop-on, hop-off tour bus to find their family. Thank you for listening to the Writing Gym podcast. Happy writing!